Section 46 of Gray's Anatomy, Part 4. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Bologna Times. Anatomy of the Human Body, Part 4, by Henry Gray. The Great Plexuses of the Sympathetic System. The great plexuses of the sympathetic are aggregations of nerves and ganglia, situated in the thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic cavities, and named the cardiac, celiac, and hypogastric plexuses. They consist not only of sympathetic fibers derived from the ganglia, but of fibers from the medulla spinalis, which are conveyed through the white rami communicantes. From the plexuses branches are given to the thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic viscera. The cardiac plexus, plexus cardiacus. The cardiac plexus is situated at the base of the heart and is divided into a superficial part which lies in the concavity of the aortic arch, and a deep part between the aortic arch and the trachea. The two parts are, however, closely connected. The superficial part of the cardiac plexus lies beneath the arch of the aorta, in front of the right pulmonary artery. It is formed by the superior cardiac branch of the left sympathetic and the lower superior cervical cardiac branch of the left vagus. A small ganglion, the cardiac ganglion of Risberg, is occasionally found connected with these nerves at their point of junction. This ganglion, when present, is situated immediately beneath the arch of the aorta, on the right side of the ligamentum arteriosum. The superficial part of the cardiac plexus gives branches A to the deep part of the plexus, B to the anterior coronary plexus, and C to the left anterior pulmonary plexus. The deep part of the cardiac plexus is situated in front of the bifurcation of the trachea, above the point of division of the pulmonary artery, and behind the aortic arch. It is formed by the cardiac nerves derived from the cervical ganglia of the sympathetic and the cardiac branches of the vagus and recurrent nerves. The only cardiac nerves which do not enter into the formation of the deep part of the cardiac plexus are the superior cardiac nerve of the left sympathetic and the lower of the two superior cervical cardiac branches from the left vagus, which pass to the superficial part of the plexus. The branches from the right half of the deep part of the cardiac plexus pass, some in front of and others behind, the right pulmonary artery. The former, the more numerous, transmit a few filaments to the anterior pulmonary plexus, and are then continued onward to form part of the anterior coronary plexus. Those behind the pulmonary artery distribute a few filaments to the right atrium, and are then continued onward to form part of the posterior coronary plexus. The left half of the deep part of the plexus is connected with the superficial part of the cardiac plexus and gives filaments to the left atrium and to the anterior pulmonary plexus, and is then continued to form the greater part of the posterior coronary plexus. The posterior coronary plexus, plexus coronarius posterior, left coronary plexus, is larger than the anterior, and accompanies the left coronary artery. It is chiefly formed by filaments prolonged from the left half of the deep part of the cardiac plexus, and by a few from the right half. It gives branches to the left atrium and ventricle. The anterior coronary plexus, plexus coronarius anterior, right coronary plexus, is formed partly from the superficial and partly from the deep parts of the cardiac plexus. It accompanies the right coronary artery and gives branches to the right atrium and ventricle. The celiac plexus, plexus coeliacus, solar plexus. The celiac plexus, the largest of the three sympathetic plexuses, is situated at the level of the upper part of the first lumbar vertebra and is composed of two large ganglia, the celiac ganglia, and a dense network of nerve fibers uniting them together. It surrounds the celiac artery and the root of the superior mesenteric artery. It lies behind the stomach and the omental bursa, in front of the crura of the diaphragm and the commencement of the abdominal aorta, and between the suprarenal glands. The plexus and the ganglia receive the greater and lesser splanchnic nerves of both sides and some filaments from the right vagus, and give off numerous secondary plexuses along the neighboring arteries. The celiac ganglia, ganglia celiaca, semilunar ganglia, are two large, irregularly shaped masses having the appearance of lymph glands and placed one on either side of the middle line in front of the crura of the diaphragm, close to the suprarenal glands, that on the right side being placed behind the inferior vena cava. The upper part of each ganglion is joined by the greater splanchic nerve, while the lower part, which is segmented off and named the aorticorenal ganglion, receives the lesser splanchnic nerve and gives off the greater part of the renal plexus. The secondary plexuses springing from or connected with the celiac plexus are the phrenic, renal, hepatic, spermatic, lenal, superior mesenteric, superior gastric, abdominal aortic, suprarenal, inferior mesenteric. The phrenic plexus, plexus phrenicus, accompanies the inferior phrenic artery to the diaphragm, some filaments passing to the suprarenal gland. It arises from the upper part of the celiac ganglion, and is larger on the right than on the left side. It receives one or two branches from the phrenic nerve. At the point of junction of the right phrenic plexus with the phrenic nerve is a small ganglion, ganglion phrenicum. This plexus distributes branches to the inferior vena cava and to the suprarenal and hepatic plexuses. The hepatic plexus, plexus hepaticus, the largest offset from the celiac plexus, receives filaments from the left vagus and right phrenic nerves. It accompanies the hepatic artery, ramifying upon its branches and upon those of the portal vein in the substance of the liver. Branches from this plexus accompany all the divisions of the hepatic artery. A considerable plexus accompanies the gastroduodenal artery, and is continued as the inferior gastric plexus on the right gastroepiploic artery along the greater curvature of the stomach, where it unites with offshoots from the lenal plexus. The lenal plexus, plexus lenalis, splenic plexus, is formed by branches from the celiac plexus, the left celiac ganglion, and from the right vagus nerve. It accompanies the lenal artery to the spleen, giving off, in its course, subsidiary plexuses along the various branches of the artery. The superior gastric plexus, plexus gastricus superior, gastric or coronary plexus, accompanies the left gastric artery along the lesser curvature of the stomach and joins with branches from the left vagus. The suprarenal plexus, plexus suprarenalis, is formed by branches from the celiac plexus, from the celiac ganglion, and from the phrenic and greater splanchic nerves, a ganglion being formed at the point of junction with the latter nerve. The plexus supplies the suprarenal gland, being distributed chiefly to its medullary portion. Its branches are remarkable for their large size in comparison with that of the organ they supply. The renal plexus, plexus renalis, is formed by filaments from the celiac plexus, the aorticorenal ganglion, and the aortic plexus. It is joined also by the smallest splanchic nerve.